Yo, this is Mike Williams, or you might know me on social as Yo Remy. So I've built quite a few marketplaces in the past, and probably one of the more notable ones, Studio Time, which is an Airbnb for music studios. Most of the MVPs I build are without code and using Sharetribe's hosted marketplace solution, which is turnkey. So I'm going to make a brief tutorial right now, broken down in a few different videos, a few different parts. But this first, I want to walk you through setting up an initial marketplace using Sharetribe's hosted platform. And it's great for creating an initial MVP. So you can use it for creating marketplaces for selling products or goods, rentals, or services. But for the sake of this, to kind of keep it as close parallel as Airbnb as possible, we're going to go with rentals, and we're actually just going to call it Studio B&B and pretty much make it Studio Time meets Airbnb. All right, so let's go ahead and get started, and we're going to walk through this right now. So I'm just going to go ahead and put my email in and select the country and the language, which is actually going to be the default language for the marketplace. So that's step 2, and I'm just going to enter my name here. So, and then create a password. And then, as I mentioned, the different marketplace types they have that Sharetribe suitable for is products or goods, rentals, or services. So we're going to go with rentals since we're going to do an Airbnb. So we're just going to call it Studio B&B once again and agree to their terms, and then create. So this is creating the marketplace right now. All right, so that's the initial sign up process, literally just from going to sharetribe.com and just clicking on getting started. So it automatically sets up a marketplace for me up here. I did 2 previous ones that had to delete the videos. So this is Studio B&B 2, but that would be the URL, studiobnb.sharetribe.com. And we're going to close out this little help chat. But they drop you right into the main admin dashboard. It created a user account for me up here. So that was using my first name, last name, email entered, and password. And then you can see right here, I have a user account and it's just selected as an admin. So now I'm on the dashboard. So they have a really good onboarding process right here. And we're just going to go ahead and set up the marketplace. So we're going to add the basic information for the marketplace. And right here. So the marketplace name was already entered, so that was Studio Time. Same thing up at the language. You can enter multiple languages, but I would not recommend having multiple languages and dealing with localization and whatnot for simply validating an MVP. That's typically not the best thing to do when you're trying to validate a marketplace. So since this is like a Airbnb for music studios, our slogan is just going to be find and book music studios. There we go. And then the kind of tagline is just going to be the easiest way to find and book music studios. Just keep it simple. And then the search help text is actually going to be, when you click on the search icon at the very top in the top nav, it drops down right here. And it says search is a hint text. So you can actually change that the help text or hint text. So if it's going to be location or keyword based, it's best to kind of pick one and kind of guide a user through this help text to let them know what to search for. So we're going to use location as a primary search. So we're just going to say, where are you looking for a studio? Or where would you like to make music? So we'll just have that. And then you can require users to accept an agreement or some kind of text, which I would highly recommend because this would be where you could say, by signing up to the site, you agree to accept the terms, privacy policy, and then community guidelines. I would also recommend having community guidelines for marketplace because that's best. We'll just click out so that way you don't have to put more text, and we'll just save that. All right. So that was saved. And then we're going to click out of this. All right. So that was the basic details. Now we're going to click on the design. So this is where we can further configure the marketplace for Studio B&B in our specific look here. So I'm going to click on the logo, and I actually created a quick little kind of text based logo in Snappa, which is a visual design kind of creation tool, like right before I did this. So I just uploaded that. I would also upload it here for a logo for social sharing, for the cover photo, which is going to show on the top area, kind of like a header section of the homepage. I'm just going to go ahead and select image of a music studio. And then same thing for the small cover photo. So this is if a user is not logged in when they come to the homepage. You could select the favicon here. You can also change the marketplace color. So for right now, you can see that it's like a blue. You could change that right here just by simply entering a hex value. Same thing with changing like the slogan color and the description color. And then down here is where you could change the default browse view. So when a user sees the homepage and they see listings, this would be the layout and how they're displayed. So there's 3 different options. You can't do combinations of these, but you can do a grid, a list, or a map. Right now, the current Studio Time site is on Sharetribe's Flex platform, which isn't hosted. It's on their API. And totally custom front end. So it's list and map view, just like Airbnb is a list and map view. But for this and validating an MVP, the grid view is typically the best. That's the best experience for users seeing the listings when they come to the homepage. I would suggest having the display names right below it as far as the metadata. Being first name with some initial. That way you would see like studio listed by, in this case, like me, so it'd be like Mike W. It just adds kind of a personal touch to the studio. And we're going to save this. We're not going to add any custom script right now because we're just setting up the basic marketplace. All right, and so we've gone through the basics of details, design. We don't really need to go through doing a lot of advanced configuration. That's what I'm going to do in the next tutorial. But I want to walk you through just the, I would say, start to kind of fully functional MVP in this first video. Top bar is not relevant. Landing page isn't really relevant because you can't configure that in this. Let's go to listing categories. So if we wanted to create categories, which would be the different studio types, for instance, this is where we could do that because it doesn't have any kind of categories except as default. So we'll just keep it default for now because we don't want to do any kind of advanced configuration. We'll do that in the next video, and then we'll go through listing filters in fields. So when someone's creating a listing, this is the different fields that they'll see. So this looks good for now. We can just keep it a title, a price, detailed description, an expiration date. We probably don't need this. So location and then images. So that's good for now for the basics. You could add text, numbers, drop downs, checkbox groups, and dates. So you can totally customize that. And then we're going to go to order types. So to speak a little bit, or spend a little bit of time talking about this, since this is like an Airbnb for music studios, the value prop is being able to discover and book music studios through this marketplace. So Sharetribe also accounts for renting out without online payments or with. But since our value prop for the MVP is dependent on online payments, we're going to remove the ability to list a studio without accepting online payments. There are different use cases for different business models where that would totally make sense. And it's just good to know that Sharetribe does account for this. And then here's the drop down where you could add others. So you can have multiple, I would say, different order types within a main marketplace. So Studio B&B could potentially also sell products, offer services for producers and engineers. You could create other listings for like requests, all sorts of different listing types. But generally you want to stick to one and validating that. These are just for other people that are trying to validate other types of marketplace MVPs, and they would probably just use these for their specific needs. But since, as I mentioned, we're not going to allow people to list a studio without payments, we're just going to go down here and we're going to delete this order type. So we just deleted that. So right now, it's just going to be order types running out with online payment. And we're just going to modify this a little bit, and I'll explain why. So the name, running out without online payment, we don't need this right here. It can just be renting out music studio, because this is what someone's going to see as the kind of top level selection when they click post a new listing. So we just want this kind of text to be intuitive. Then the checkout button, when someone clicks on the button that's on their listing, we don't want it to say, you know, rent or whatnot, or buy. We want to make it book now. So it's a little bit more intuitive call to action. And so since this is a renting out and accepting payments, we allow them to add price, select the ability to accept payments. They don't need a shipping fee since they're not shipping any or selling any goods or products. And then for the availability, this is where this kind of ties into them having their calendar availability. And that is based off of per hour, day, or night. Since we're not doing nightly, of course, it's for studios. We're going to select the hour for availability, and that will be our unit pricing units too. So we'll just save this. And we'll go down. So the payment system, we're going to click on that. So you can configure the default currency for your marketplace, and then also the minimum transaction size. That's not really relevant for us. We're not really worried about the minimum transaction size because we're assuming that the studio hourly rate, if they have hourly minimums as far as they require a certain amount of hours for the booking to take place, then they can just mention that in their description. So we don't need to configure that. Sharetribe does allow you to use Stripe as far as accepting payments, and that would be through a Stripe Connect account or through PayPal, which PayPal has a marketplace kind of solution. And I can talk about that in the next video with configuration, but we're not going to set up either right now because that's a little bit more, it's a simple kind of connect, entering your Stripe kind of IDs and then connecting a PayPal business account. So I don't really need to go through that. It's fairly intuitive. We're just going to kind of keep going through this initial setup, and we'll click on the social media. So we don't really need to add a Twitter username because we're not going to have any kind of shareability as far as prompting people to tweet. You can have a Facebook off, and they make it super easy to allow for that. So it's not just an email and password. And you can simply enter a Facebook client ID and client secret right here. So I don't need to go set up a Facebook app for Studio B&B since this is a demo. So we're just going to skip through that also. And then you would have your analytics down here. And then we don't need to set that up. That's just like your Google ID. And then they do have like instruction texts. So you can have information here you can edit. And that would just expand into a text editor as far as hint text for people to sign up. So for instance, you could add some text here that says, you know, if you're signing up as a studio for a user account, you can add your studio by clicking post a new listing on the top left. So just to make it a little bit more intuitive as far as for your users in your marketplace. And then we're going to click down here on the email configurations, and they make it easy to configure the emails that you're sending from. So this is going to be like the welcome email, and you can also put like a kind of a brief onboarding email for new users. But this would be like who it's from. So if this is like team at studio time, it could be like team at studio or Studio B&B. It could be like team at Studio B&B and like team at studiobnb.com. And that's where you would do that right here. And then we're going to go down, and this is our main marketplace settings. And this is pretty much the last step that we're going to do to set up the entire marketplace MVP for Studio B&B. But some different preferences is allowing users to only join with invites. So if you want to kind of close off the user registration and take advantage of some kind of like invites, you could do that. allow users to invite others. There'd be a field there, so we don't really need this because we're going to allow anyone. There is a configuration where you can only allow registered users to see listings and profiles. So it would basically be a homepage at the URL, so like Studio BNB, sharetribe.com or studiobnb.com. And then it would just prompt users to create an account or log in before they saw the grid view with the listings. I wouldn't really recommend that if you're trying to share a lot of the new listings and kind of build some awareness around your listings on social, because when they click on that link, if they're not logged in, then it'll just prompt them to log in or create an account. So it's not really like, you can't really get a feel of the marketplace if you don't have an account. And then something else they have, which is really good, is only allowing users verified by admins to post a new listing. So that could be good if you're validating your MVP, and in this case, Studio BNB's MVP, because I could only select certain users to be able to upload a new listing. And that way I would know that they're, they would be like an approved user, and that their studio would be, higher quality studio listing. Or we had some hint text that said, email us and we approve, certain profiles or in your business information. We could kind of go through that process by clicking on this. So that would only allow certain users to post new listings if they're verified. So as I mentioned, now to the search preferences, you can do keyword, location search, or keyword and location. Since typically it's by location, and that's a little bit more intuitive for users, we put the hint text for location, so we're just going to go ahead and select that. Our default is not kilometers. We're going to be based on the US, so it's going to be miles. And we don't want to only show nearby because we're not going to have a ton of inventory, so we might as well show it all, and then just the sort based off of the distance. We're going to display the listing type in the main view. Maybe publishing date. We don't need that right now. But if the marketplace is, say, for instance, over a year old, maybe it would be great to beneficial to show the listing date, so that way people could kind of see what the newest inventory is. If there's no ratings or reviews, then they would understand that maybe it's just a new listing, so it hasn't been booked yet. You can also, it does have a comment functionality. Sharetribe does have that, so we're just going to allow people to comment and maybe create a discussion on each listing. Just be aware that it might not be beneficial for kind of dialogue and conversation to be going on listings. So if you notice that people are just commenting instead of messaging studios, or there's any kind of negative comments about it or whatnot, then you can just simply unselect this and kind of resave that. And then the email preferences, a cool feature that they also have is this newsletter feature and kind of functionality. So every week, everyone that signed up would get this kind of newsletter format of all the new listings, which I think is really good in the very beginning. So we're just going to go ahead and save these settings. And then now that we've gone through this kind of entire process of the basic configuration. All right, so I need to confirm my email address, so I'm going to do that. So I just click through the email. All right, so it should be confirmed in that other window. All right, good. So I'm confirmed. All right, so now we're just going to go through and look at our initial marketplace. So there's no listings, so we don't have anything right here, and we don't have any filters that display or anything. I could just simply create one right here. We do see this like hint text in the search that's already populated. And I'm just going to go ahead and sign out of the admin account though, so that way we can see what visitors that come to the site will see before they create an account with the intent to book or list their studio. So I'm just going to go ahead and log out right now. All right, so as you can see, this is the basic homepage. I mean, this is the actual homepage view for the marketplace. So this is empty without any listings. But as you see, the cover that I uploaded, the top left has the menu that you can expand, and then we have the logo that I uploaded, so we don't have the placeholder blue text anymore. Up there, we have the actual logo, and then we have our kind of like tagline right here. So this is the basic marketplace that users are going to see. And then we do have like an about right there. So I'm going to take you through that really quick. All right, so I log back in as the user, and I'm of course the admin right now. So I'm going to just go through and just show you a little bit more about the admin panel right now and some of the functionality. So in the marketplace kind of admin management, they have a you can click on this and see all the users and select users as admin. You can ban users. If you selected only users with permission could post, this is where it would have another column right here where you'd be able to select that. So that's definitely a good feature. They have another kind of listing management view right here. So there's no listings, but you'd be able to see all the listings by the listing title. So for instance, that'd be like the studio name, the author, so like who the user is, their username, the creation, and then updated date. And then you would see the categories. So for instance, if it was like home studio as a category, we would be able to see all the home studios, and then also the status. You also have a transaction view. So you'd be able to see transactions and then the different states. So it'd be transactions tied to a listing, the status of it, as far as like requests accepted, completed, reviews left or whatnot. When it was started, the latest activity sort by. So that makes it really good as far as like marketplace and kind of user management. Who started it, and then the other party, so that would be the person requesting, and then the other party would be the studio that was being requested. You can actually see the conversations, so you can monitor conversations that are going on from user to user. So you can see that. And then you can also see all the reviews down here. There's another view for that. And then email users and invite new users. So this is the basic setup for a Airbnb style marketplaces for music studios that we just called Studio B&B for the sake of this initial tutorial. But it is a fully functioning marketplace and pretty much the same exact kind of functionality as basic functionality as Airbnb, which would be needed to validate this MVP. So that's it for this tutorial, and I'm going to go ahead and make another tutorial where we go into a little bit more advanced configuration or customization for our marketplace MVP, which is Studio B&B. Thanks.